So your overall view and your what is submission on the budget, sir?
First of all, Dr. Sampath, you and I know that a finance minister is not God or a magician. With available resources and tools, they do the best they can. Under the circumstances, in the face of headwinds, global headwinds, even before Trump, there were headwinds because some of the developed countries like Germany were finding it very difficult to continue to grow. And of course, with Trump, everything changed. The trade impediments, American dollar appreciating, capital fleeing the rest of the world and moving to America, and so on and so forth. Therefore, we have significant challenges. And also our own growth rate is sort of slightly dipped from 8.2. Now, given the context, I think it's a remarkable exercise of balancing. Four things together would have been ordinarily impossible. Fiscal consolidation map being continuing. She promised 4.5% GSDP fiscal deficit in the current year. Now it shows 4.4% for the next year. This year, 4.9%, she brought it down to 4.8% current year. The second is capex increasing from 10.1 lakh crores to 11.21 lakh crores. If we add the interest-free loans to the states, 1.45 lakh crores, it comes to 12.75 lakh crores, which is remarkable. Again, another record. The third is income tax being substantially reduced for the middle class income people, up to 12 lakh rupees. I think most people don't appreciate what it means. You take America, if you take the same purchasing power, in America, if you earn $20,000 rupees per month, you still have to pay 10% income tax. If you earn 20,000 rupees to 75,000 rupees a month, you still have to pay 12% tax in the terms of same purchasing power. In India, up to 12 lakh rupees, 1 lakh rupees a month, there is zero tax, which is actually quite remarkable. And the fourth one, the transfers to states are very considerable. 25.6 trillion rupees, 25.6 lakh crore rupees, all put together. So to achieve all these four simultaneously and do it credibly, because if you take the figures of the last 4 or 5 years, the government of India has been generally very truthful in terms of numbers. There's fidelity to numbers. They're not giving outrageous estimates of income and low estimates of expenditure. By and large, they're adhering to what they are promising. I think it's a remarkable accomplishment. The second is the emphasis on employment generation, agriculture, small and medium industries, and rural economy is very clear, not only in allocations, but also in terms of the direction and some of the ideas and proposals and the schemes and so on and so forth. And the third is ease of doing business and making it easy for the taxpayer in a variety of ways and general growth orientation. I think all these are extremely positive. We should welcome them. If there are two deficiencies, one partial deficiency, the other significant deficiency, it is, in my judgment, growth of small towns. So that the finance minister herself said there must not be any migration out of necessity. Out of choice, if people migrate, that's okay. Now, there's a large amount of migration from the poorest sections of rural areas in the country with low incomes and low skills, forced migration to big cities, living in deplorable conditions with low income, oftentimes alone without any family support or anything. Unless small towns become engines of growth, particularly in the context of electricity, mobile telephones, television, and digital technology being available now practically everywhere, I think a significant impetus is required to build small town infrastructure, town planning, and transport systems. I think the accent was simply not there adequately, though there is some mention of second-tier towns, etc. The other significant omission, long-term omission in the country, which I think one day we have to address, is healthcare. Education, we are spending a lot. The problem is not expenditure. Outcomes are terrible. So more money doesn't really solve educational problems. In any case, it's all in states, particularly school education. But healthcare allocations ought to be increased. We are spending the least amount in the world, just 1.1% GDP or so. And there are serious challenges. 55 million people, they are becoming poor every year, descending into poverty newly every year because of healthcare challenges. A bit of expenditure, we can't spend too much money, but progressively 0.3% per annum, if you are 0.1, 0.2% per annum, 0.1%, 0.2% per annum GDP. Additional expenditure every year, but in a wise manner, can radically transform healthcare. These are the only significant omissions in my book. But otherwise, It's a remarkable budget. Now the ball is in the course of the industry and the states, because states is where the governance is. We focus too much on the union government and its budget. The real challenges are in the states because economy grows, as we all know, and wealth is created not by the government, but by the people. Government creates conditions conducive for that and makes allocations to do some of its job well. But ultimately, it's in our hands as people and most of all state governments.
Yeah. So, wow, I think it's been a fabulous, what a summation of the entire budget, sir. Thank you so much. I have another question to you, sir.
Mhm.
So, though I think it is on the common man's emotions. So, it was actually saying 2024 budget was largely related to AP, and this budget is largely focused on Bihar. You being a champion politician, hey, obviously the views are going to be very different from you.
No,
What do you
both are
tell us?
illusions. 2024 being AP Bihar and now Bihar, both are optical illusions. Bihar is going for elections.
Yeah.
So there's a mention a few times. But look at three things. A, Bihar is the poorest state of India with roughly one-fourth of the per capita income of the rest of the states. Bihar deserves and needs more. Because if one part of India is gangrenous, the rest of India will not prosper. I've always held this view, not newly today. Whether UP or Bihar, you must never grudge them, provided the money is well spent and infrastructure is built and economy grows. And two, there are elections in Bihar. Obviously, they're a political government and they want to make a political statement. Nothing more. Second part, Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is getting what is due to it. Some of it because the statute provided for that, whether it's Polavaram or the assistance for the capital or the infrastructure or something else. Some of it because the state is now proactive after 5 years of terrible decline in terms of investment and growth. There's a genuine commitment on the part of the state government, despite the financial stress, and therefore Government of India is responding. And in any case, the politically also aligned, though it's not necessary to be very fair to the current government at the union level, irrespective of the political persuasion of the states for investment and infrastructure, union government is not holding back any resources. So Andhra Pradesh is not losing out. They're not mentioning Andhra Pradesh. It will be ugly if you mention 29 states in the budget every day on every page. That's not the idea. And third element is, just remember the total allocation to states. 25.6 trillion rupees out of 48.33 trillion rupees of total revenue, including capital revenue, minus debt. 53% of the total revenues. Total revenues. I'm not talking of tax money alone, taxes, long tax revenue included. Now, India has the highest devolution to states. Many people are forgetting that. And India has the lowest devolution to local governments. If you take China, local government expenditure is 51% of the total government expenditure. India is 3%. So, this continuous whining and grinding, griping about the union not giving resources, it's absolutely uncalled for. Certainly, some readjustment is required. Certainly, we can improve some of the programs. Certainly, concentration can be better. There's always room for improvement, but we actually have a very healthy fiscal relationship in the country, federal fiscal relationship. And much of the criticism is actually uninformed and unwarranted.
Wow, I think it's a fair, very close and deep observation, sir. I think thanks for that. And so, how do you see on the your view on the MSME segment? I think the government has addressed various measures and also the what a Gramin what a card in terms of the credit cards. The enhancement has been successfully displayed. And the MSME segment, which always is a very critical segment in our what a country's growth. I think what a government has emphasized on the showing the importance on various factors they've changed. So your outlook on that aspect, MSME.
No, earlier there was some fair criticism that too much emphasis was on the corporate sector, which was necessary. I'm a great fan of private investment and support to industry, but not enough of emphasis on the small sector, because they provide employment to 85% of the people in the country, unorganized, low wage, low skilled, low income, and in poverty. And yet it's ignored. And as Finance Minister mentioned today, a significant part of exports also by the MSME sector. Given that, this time the emphasis on agriculture, MSMEs, generally rural and semi-peri-urban areas, and specific sectors which are labor intensive, like garments, your leather industry, then electronics and toys industry, etc. I think they're absolutely welcome. I fully appreciate that. I was actually a little disappointed that initially the stock market responded unfavorably. That shows that our short-sightedness, that everything that's good for corporates is good for India, nothing else, is not a good idea. What's good for the unorganized sector, MSMEs, is good for India, including corporates, because unless the demand is generated there, how can you make money? Even from a narrow standpoint of view of selfishness, self-interest, and profit making. For instance, agriculture, one thing that most people are missing, until recently, our agricultural growth was never more than 2 or 3%. Now, on a sustained basis, we're recording 5% growth. Where is it growing? To the poorest section of India, which sustains about 46% of India's population. 46% of population depends on agriculture directly or indirectly. Directly, actually, in a substantial way. It used to be 41%. When I said 41%, the Finance Commission chairman corrected me the other day. He said, Dr. JP, now it's 46% because many of the new employment after COVID has gone back to agriculture. Now, if you don't take care of that and small industries and small towns, I don't see how this country is going to go forward. So the emphasis is right. I think the market responded initially a little irrationally, a little self-centered way, and therefore there was a little bit of decline in the first hour or two. I think later some wiser counsels prevailed and market is now rebound.
And I'll just add to that, sir. In fact, actually, the market still remained flat today. The Sensex and Nifty have remained. In fact, Nifty is slightly on negative side, and the Sensex is on flat. But the history says out of 8 budget given by our finance minister, the 6 budgets the markets were in red. So no wonder. I think she's kept the track record clean.
That shows the short term versus long term. Long term markets have grown dramatically.
Yeah.
Even in the
So,
last 5 years, there has been almost a 2, 3 fold jump in some sectors.
so
So
obviously, I think yeah.
you're absolutely right. You should not respond to the market response on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Dr. Manmohan Singh famously said on one occasion, I don't lose sleep over the stock market.
Yeah.
That should be the right approach of the finance minister. Do the right things for the economic growth in the long term. Markets will correct themselves.